So good to have Alyssa back. She is amazing. Every time I talk to her, I hear pearls. I just love her energy. I love how present she is, and I love all the wonderful work she's doing with women all over the world, literally all over the world. She's a powerhouse.
Yeah, she's so grounded. Like you just get this sense of grounding when you're talking to her. Like she's got you. Like I imagine going to her and you're like a hot mess on a hot day with some screaming kids or whatever the situation is, and I'm sure she could ground you out in about 5 minutes. But yeah, she's got some great insight, like simple little things that you could do just to get through your day and week and month and year and however long this nonsense goes on.
Life. Stay tuned. You're going to love this.
The world is a lot right now. Are you feeling it? We all need new tools to help us walk through the chaos with grace, ease, and compassion for each other and for ourselves. In this podcast, you'll hear from parents, educators, and other experts who can bring perspective to the monumental job of parenting. It's time to level up and be warriors for our kids and our communities. This is the Warrior Parent Podcast. I'm Marci Mitchell.
And I'm Debbie DiManno. As parents, we understand that it really does take a village to raise our kids. We hope that this podcast serves to create and support that community for you. Join us as we discuss and practice our core tools, which are proven mind-body techniques that can be used by anyone to improve your life on a daily basis.
Hello, welcome back to the Warrior Parent Podcast. It's always so good to have you all listening. We love to get together and just chat and share what's going on and support each other through these very interesting times. And so today we're really excited because we have our good friend Alyssa Booth back on the show. It's been a little while since we spoke with Alyssa, but she is a licensed therapist and a trauma-informed empowerment coach who works with high-functioning, overwhelmed women who are exhausted from holding everything together. Sound familiar, friends? She is grounded in nervous system healing, identity repair, and lived experience. Alyssa helps women make sense of why their system stays on go mode and how to stop living in constant overdrive long enough to finally feel like themselves again, not just a version that's coping. Women who work with Alyssa can expect grounded guidance with warm depth and a little bit of humor without the pressure of do it right. This is a space where perfectionists and people pleasers finally slow down enough to feel regulated in their bodies, trust themselves again, and experience what it's like to live with more ease, clarity, and emotional regulation. Her goal is to make healing feel freeing and help you finally bring your spark back. And that sounds so good to me. I think it's probably going to sound great to many of you. Thank you so much, Alyssa, for coming back on the show.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm so glad to be here. And I know our conversations are always so great. So I'm excited to see where it goes today.
Me too, always.
Right. Well, Alyssa, by now it seems like we go way back, right? I think Marci's actually done some work with you, personal work as well, and I love that. Marci and I are finding our favorites, and we keep calling them in now.
Yes.
So this is like a little trend for us, I think. I can relate to all those things. Marci's reading through the list of people pleasing, perfection, overdrive, constant overdrive. No off button, just on. And in fact, I had a pretty big crash when I was in my 40s, like a really big crash. And boy, I wish I had known you then. But meanwhile, I am probably old enough
Never
to be
too
your mother. So anyway, I know it's all about the feminine energy right now. So let's talk a little bit about the chaos, first of all, that's going on in the world and what you're seeing in your clients and like what's showing up for them right now.
Yeah, I think that's such a good question. It's hard because I teach nervous system healing and regulation. And I always like to clarify what regulation means. It does not mean we're cool, calm, and collected 100% of the time, right? It means that we are, it means that we're present with ourselves and our emotions, right? I can still have ups and downs of feelings, emotions, and intensity, but I'm not self-abandoning and I'm not shoving it down and pushing it away until I reach that burnout, crash out moment. And so it's interesting because we don't want our nervous system to be constantly off because it serves a purpose. And that purpose is to keep us safe. And so when we see things going on in the world that literally are life threatening, threatening to our mental, emotional, and sometimes physical health and well-being, we don't want to be regulated during those moments, right? That we want our nervous system to signal, hey, like you need to find ways to protect yourself. And so it's the hard part is that balance of how can I protect and preserve my mental and emotional well-being while also being informed, but not getting so caught up where I'm on, high constant alert 100% of the time, because that's not what our nervous system was made for, right? We're made to kind of have those spurts when we need them to protect us and then come down to a place more of that equilibrium. And so really just helping my clients recognize their responses, recognize their triggers, recognize that activation, and also be really, really intentional on grounding and being present in the moment.
Yeah.
I think there's also, oh, sorry, you can go.
Just that was just, you said so much, such powerful things right there. I know we're both like nodding our heads, and I love that you're explaining the difference between just calm all the time, cool Jack, never reaction. Like that's not it either. We get to be human.
Right.
And emotions are messages. Emotions are important. Emotions aren't a bad thing.
Right.
And so it's not about squashing them. It's not about, not crying, not having reactions, but it's about maybe coming back to a more mindful place where you don't let little things completely flip you out. We talk about this all the time. The world is always out there, and there's big things and there's little things. All this stuff's always going on, and you can't control that. So your dominion is over your own well-being. And how do you show up and respond to things the way, so if it's time to get mad, you get mad, but you're not flying off the handle. You're stepping up and responding in an appropriate, I don't know, appropriate's a weird word, but a way that feels in alignment with your values, and that's empowering. Like one of the great words that I love is in your intro is that empowering. Yeah. And
I
God knows
think
there's a lot going on right now.
there really is. And I think that, we're in a season where there's a lot of awareness and information. And I would say, again, kind of on that bigger scale, but also within ourselves. I think that, again, nervous system work is now trending, people are interested in it. And so I think for some women, the hard part is constant self-awareness that can feel really overwhelming. Or it's like, okay, I want to regulate my nervous system. I want to do this work. I want to do all these things. But then you get caught up in all the overthinking and overanalyzing. And it's like, oh, what is that? Is that wrong? Is that bad? What is this emotion? You know what I mean? So then it kind of, you're still
So
doing the same
relatable.
things, just channeling it in a different way. And so I think that it's just interesting because on one end, I'm so glad that there is more awareness, but on the other end, I think that there's still that gap of, okay, like, what do I do with it now? You know what I mean? Like, I'm aware, but like, now what?
Don't let it just become one more thing women have to do. Now I have to regulate my nervous system too.
Because I'm a list maker, so that means I have to check that list too.
Nervous system today.
So I have a question for you. So you talk about trauma and being trauma informed, and so this was a big thing for me that I had and I started working on this probably 15 years ago or something. But I come from a traumatic background in my childhood, and I never realized how I was carrying that around. But for me, it showed up as guilt and shame. And I think for a lot of women, they carry this around. I don't necessarily even think that you need to have been traumatized to feel the guilt and shame. But there's a tool that someone helped me with, and I did this for probably about 2 years consistently, and that was NLP. Do you use that technique at all? And what are your tools? I'm sure you hear this from women
You said NLP?
about the guilt and shame.
Yeah.
NLP.
Yeah,
What is it?
NLP, programming.
Okay.
Neuro-linguistic programming. So it's really, I know you talk a lot about the rewire with the work that you do, and this is one practice for the rewire. Um, so tell me what you might do for the rewire to get rid of the guilt and shame.
Yeah, I think kind of as we talked about earlier, like emotions are not a bad thing. And so the first thing that I would say is when you're feeling guilt or shame, step one is accepting those emotions and allowing them to exist. Because if we're continuing to fight against those emotions and feel like we shouldn't feel this way, and they're really
Yeah.
uncomfortable, so it's hard, it's
Yeah.
hard to kind of accept them. But that really is step
Yeah.
one, that we have to say, okay, I am feeling these emotions and it is really uncomfortable and it is bringing up maybe some thoughts or memories or sensations that are not my favorite. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so allowing them to exist and giving
Mhm.
yourself permission to feel them is when we can actually work with them. One thing I tell my clients is to sit with the emotion, don't marinate in it, right? So
Mm,
we can have, I like
yeah.
to use a lot of visuals just because I'm a visual person, but if we kind of picture this guilt and shame outside of our brain and like hold it in our hand and can kind of see it as what it is. This is guilt and shame. It's not who I am. It's just a part of what
Yeah.
I'm experiencing. And so it really
Yeah.
kind of gives you that separation to be able to see it in a different way. The other
Mhm.
thing is that we have to remember that emotions want to work for us. Emotions want to give us information to help us in some way. So even though guilt and shame might feel really uncomfortable, it's serving a purpose. And we want
Mhm.
it to serve that purpose. And so if we think of defining what guilt is versus what shame is, and you might have kind of already heard this definition, but just to clarify, right?
Yeah.
Guilt is saying, I made a mistake, I did something wrong. And shame is, I am the mistake. I am wrong. I am
Yeah.
bad.
Right.
So it kind of hits you more in that personal level. They're very separate. I like to sometimes do an exercise with my clients where I have them think about a time they felt guilty and think about a time they felt shame and kind of notice how that sits different in their body. We
Mhm.
have a different response. It can feel really similar, but again, just kind of understanding the
Mhm.
difference in how we're feeling and experiencing that, and again allowing it to exist. And so moving through our nervous system, and as we're working toward regulation, the best thing you can do is just lean in and be curious about those
Mhm.
sensations without wanting to change them, without pushing them
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
And that honestly in and of
Mhm.
itself is incredibly healing.
Huge.
And
Yeah.
validating that, it makes sense.
Mhm.
It makes sense that I feel this way because my childhood was effed up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
went through some shit, right? And
Yes, yes.
so yeah, of course
Yeah.
I feel this way, right? This is the way that my nervous system is trying to keep me safe in the only way that it knows how. And so I have to say,
Mhm.
thank you, guilt. Thank you, shame, for being here and trying to protect me. And
Mhm.
Yeah.
do just one noticeable shift. What's one small noticeable thing that you can do differently in that moment and how you respond to yourself? And like I said, sometimes just noticing and giving yourself permission to feel is all you need to do. So it's
Mhm.
really the rewiring isn't some like complete 180. It's just meeting yourself in those small moments with compassion, with, validation, and also with permission.
I love that. It just makes it so that we know, even on our own, like even it's really great to have a therapist or someone who can help walk you through it. But boy, if you can't do anything else, if you learn one thing, it's just getting curious, taking a pause, taking a breath and saying, what is this about? Like, why does my stomach suddenly hurt? Why am I suddenly breathing more shallow? Why am I so like wanting to change the subject right now? Yet you can be brave and get a little bit curious and look at it and walk yourself through it. It's that start of a different way of doing something different.
I think too, I think something that's also important is that we don't have to know the answer right away, right? We don't
Mhm.
have to know the why. And
Another uncomfortable place to be,
another,
right?
yeah, but okay, like this is
Yeah.
coming up. And so again, I'm just noticing it and I'm not really sure like how this reaction kind of fits into the
Mhm.
situation, but here it is, you know. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, especially when we are trying really hard to like heal and do all the things and take care of ourselves and
Yeah.
regulate, right? All of that,
Yeah.
we want to know why and we want to have the full understanding. But
Yeah.
also, I think that we sometimes just have to let ourselves be and
Mhm.
let that be enough.
Well, I think, too, I think, I also did 30 years of therapy. So the NLP was on top of all of that. But I think I didn't even know I was having that feeling, as you suggested. I didn't even know it was guilt and shame. I didn't even know what those things meant, right? So
Yeah.
as you said, the first part was the acknowledgement. Then it was the compartmentalization. But put it all in little boxes because otherwise I wasn't going to be able to survive. But eventually, as you both know, your body keeps a score. And
Hmm.
it took me down, right? Because
Yeah.
I compartmentalized it and I put it right in my gut. And it
Yeah.
sat there and it made me really, really sick. So,
Yeah.
Mm.
so talk about that a little bit. I know you're a body person. So talk about emotions and the connection to the body.
Yes, I love talking about this. And I want to kind of circle back to something you said is that I didn't even know I was experiencing this, right? It was just
Yeah.
normal. I was just
Yeah.
activated all the time. And like that was
Yes.
my
Mm.
baseline. And
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that that's where I find so many women is when I'm
Mm.
saying, oh, you need to do all these things. They're like, I'm fine. But also simultaneously, like on the edge of a breakdown. But that's just kind of been the normal way of
Right.
functioning their whole
Yes.
lives.
Yeah.
And so I love having the conversations with women where I'm kind of like pinpointing some of these things out, and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that. Those are some of my favorite moments with my
Yeah.
clients.
The,
Yeah.
the ahas.
Yes, yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, with emotions, I actually want to share a story that just happened because I think that I mean, goes perfect with what you just asked. And I know, Marcy, you kind of mentioned anger a little bit earlier in our talk as well. I think that that is an emotion that many women struggle with because of, whatever previous experiences with anger that we've had, right? Maybe we had an angry parent. Maybe we
Mm.
had we were not allowed to be angry. We got in trouble if we were ever mad at something.
Yeah.
Maybe we were told that anger is bad and we should not feel this way. And
Yeah.
so sometimes there can be like compounding emotions. And so, for example, if I feel anger, well, then all of a sudden I feel like I'm doing something wrong. So the guilt and
Mm.
the shame kind of like to piggyback on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you feel all of this like quote unquote bad feelings, and then you start to feel anxious about it because you don't know what's wrong. And so it kind of like turns into this whole snowball effect, which is really interesting. I had a client talk about, or a client and I were talking about anger, and again, the typical therapist question, where do you feel that in your body? Right?
Right.
And she said her gut. And I said, well, how does that show up? And she said, well, it kind of just feels like a knot just kind of like sitting there. And I asked her, do you get constipated? And she said, all the time, all the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that was all I had to say. I was like, and there you go, right? And
Yep.
Yeah.
so emotions can absolutely manifest into those physical symptoms and sensations. And when we don't release those emotions, when we can't release those emotions and we hold them and they feel really threatening, remember our
Hmm.
stressors, our stress response comes from the, cortisol and adrenaline, all those, hormones. And we have to remember we have receptors to those hormones on every major organ of our body. So
Yes.
when we're holding that in our gut and that's becoming a threat, guess where those hormones are going? To your gut, to your
Mhm.
heart, to,
Mm.
wherever they're going, right?
Hey, we just wanted to take a quick moment to tell you about something very exciting that Debbie and I and our team have been working on for literally years. And that is our Cour Tools app, which is now available at the Google Play Store and at the Apple Store. And you can sign up for it now and you will get access to all the tools we've been talking about on the podcast.
And if you're an early adopter of Cour Tools, you can get a VIP price for $49 for a lifetime. That's
Lifetime.
right.
Buy it once and we'll keep updating it too.
Yes. So we're super excited about this. Go to Apple Store, go to Google Play, and purchase it now.
Cour Tools, COUR, capital TOOLS.
Go get it. Yep.
So it makes sense that a lot of women experience, medical things, GI issues, insomnia, autoimmune disorders, right? Because high stress also impacts our immune system. So
Yep.
it makes sense that we experience those things.
Yeah, I have chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia. I have all the autoimmune. I had Lyme disease. I like had the gamut. I've had the gamut. But yeah, and that's when I first learned about, trauma and what it can do to your body. The idea that those two things were correlated was a very aha moment for me. And I feel like that's kind of Marci and your job now, to not let women particularly get to that place. It doesn't have to be like that, right? If we just could learn some tools early on to be able to use, we don't have to let it get that bad.
Yeah. And I think I recently, it felt like a revelation at the time. I know I told Debbie this, but it was a few months ago. And I had asked my husband to pick up a prescription for my son that we really needed to get. Like it felt to me like, let's just get this. We need to handle this, but I couldn't do it. So I sent him to do it. And the place he went, the pharmacy, just was not together. Like they were not, like it should have just, the doctor calls it in, you go pick it up, right? They're having all kinds of problems. Can't find this, can't find that, which is frustrating, right? But that's the stuff. Like we know we're going to have those experiences. But the part that then had to come on to me was that my husband became completely dysregulated, and he's calling me from the pharmacy, and he's like, these guys, what? And I'm saying one more time, but now I'm listening to all this, and I'm in this like, can you just do whatever it takes to get the prescription? I know this sucks. This isn't right. Like, but he's like completely, I'm having to hear it all, and he has to keep texting me and calling me, and my revelation was like, what is going on? Like, there's just all these dysregulated men, and then they're pouring it out onto me and onto us, like onto the rest of the world, because no one likes to go to the pharmacy and not be able to do it. But how about being able to be like, okay, like there's no reason. I wouldn't have called him and be like, this is blah, 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 blah. I'm going to be like, what do I need to do to solve this problem right now? But so that was kind of this new way of looking at it for me. Like, okay, is this what we're seeing in our politics? Is this what we're seeing, everywhere? Is dysregulated men unable to deal with their shit and then just pouring it out onto and often onto women, and unfortunately onto children. And boy, that hit, that pissed me off.
Yeah.
And I think that we are definitely seeing people, and I would even argue on both sides, on all sides, it doesn't matter. Generally, right? I think we're seeing people react and respond from that place of dysregulation, from that place of, I want to be heard. I want you to understand. And that anger, which that's what anger wants to do. It wants justice. It wants to be heard. It wants you to understand. It wants to validate. It wants to push for change. And so when you have kind of these two extremes fighting against each other and no one really trying to mediate that, it's hard to get anything done, right? It's hard to see either side of the story. And I think that there's just not a lot of accountability for things, and people have questions, right? So even with, Epstein files, it's like, why is there no accountability? Or, with the way that things were handled, instead of trying to push blame, I think that people would feel better, even though the action was still wrong. People would feel better if they were like, you know what, we made a mistake. This was wrong. This should
Yeah.
have never happened this way. This should have never been handled this way. You know, the victims and the survivors should have been protected,
Yes.
by any and all measures, and we messed up. I think that would have hit
Would help.
different than,
Yeah.
well, you got what you wanted, so whatever, you know what I mean? So I,
Yeah.
I think that
Right.
I think that people are trying to really stand their ground in decisions and situations where it's like it's so unnecessary. And
Yeah.
if you just admit it, like we can move on from it and we can like figure out what we need
Yes.
to do moving forward, right? Like we
Yes.
obviously
Account
Yeah.
can't,
yeah.
yeah,
Accountability is everything right now.
Right.
accountability is
And just own
everything.
your shit. Own your shit,
Yeah.
and we're not here to be perfect, but we're talking about Epstein, like that's a whole nother level. But
Right, right, right,
like
right,
you
right, right,
say,
right,
all
right.
the people who could have done something, who should have done something and didn't all through the years.
Right.
And now just reading this article this morning, this probably won't air until another month or so, but Cesar Chavez is now
Yeah.
someone not in the Epstein files, but just raping women and allegedly, I guess I should be careful, of pedophilia and all these women coming forward. And another one of those where so many people knew, but you're in this situation of like, this is a hero among the workers' rights movements, and then again it falls to women so often too. You can't we got to protect his reputation, so you don't get to have any kind of accountability or justice.
All showing up to be healed, right?
Healed,
Mhm.
yeah. I feel like I went right there, but
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah.
It's important because that does have to do with our safety, right? And
Yeah.
that
absolutely.
dysregulation, because if someone is, again, not holding accountability, shifting blame,
Yes,
to victims, like what? We're
Yeah.
not
not going
okay.
to feel safe. And so again,
Right.
even though, yeah, it was a horrible thing that was done, and we can't undo files that were like we can't undo that. And I wish we could. We
Mhm.
can't undo that. But in order to create more safety in this country, we have to take accountability.
Yeah.
That's what's going to
Yes,
create
yes,
safety.
yes. Especially as in both of these cases, when it comes to children. Like if
Mhm.
we can't protect children, why are we even here? And this is the thing that I'm seeing more and more of this idea as we have these conversations about matriarchy versus patriarchy is and I want to say this every time we discuss it. Matriarchy is not the opposite of patriarchy. It's not like women in charge doing all the same stuff. It's a whole different system, and it is based on caring for community, and children are at the center, caring for children at the center, and that's just
Yeah.
a system we need
Yeah.
so that we can grow as a society and
Yeah.
not have these kinds of
So, Alyssa, I don't know if you know this, but Marcy and I are writing a book, and it's based on about almost 3 years of podcasting now, and all that we've learned from people like you, right? But it is about the thread of what we were discussing here today, which is we talk about a dysregulated planet right
yeah,
now, right? And
Mhm.
that effect that it's having on our children, right?
yeah.
And so if we can't reach out to someone like you for help, and say, hey, I'm dysregulated, we are not helping our children, right? It's always an inside job, right?
Mhm.
And anyway, I need a little plug for that, but I wanted to know that everything we learned from you and all these experts from around the world, Marcy and I just like, what is the common thread? And the common thread is it is always an inside job, and we need to look in the mirror. Our country needs to look in the mirror. The planet
Yeah.
needs to look in the mirror, right?
Mhm.
And make ourselves accountable for this and do it different,
Yeah,
right?
I agree. I think that a lot of, especially like the moms that I work with will pour everything into their children, which is
Yes.
Yeah.
great. And we love that. But they forget themselves, right? And
Yeah.
Yes.
so I will always recommend you have to do your own work on this too.
Yes.
Like, If
Yeah.
you're like, you are your family's biggest asset. And so if you're
Yeah.
For real.
drained and not taking care of yourself, then, you're going to snap. You're going to have all these different responses. And so I think that we recognize that we want to do things different as parents, as moms,
Yeah.
and we often forget ourselves. We're often like, well, I'll just kind of give myself some breadcrumbs. Or like, well, like I'm okay enough. Um,
I
but
had my kids crust from their toast for breakfast every morning. And
Yes.
this is just a metaphor because I liked it. It was good. But like it's a metaphor for like that was what I ate for breakfast for years because they didn't eat it. And there it was, and it was done, and I could just eat it and I didn't have to do anything
Yeah.
else. So
yeah.
True. Maybe
and
that's the title. Maybe that's the title of the book. No breadcrumbs for breakfast.
right. Yeah,
Yes,
exactly. Yeah.
yes.
Just a quote the other day I just want to share because just what you were saying was so beautiful, and it came from a woman. Her name is Jill Winterstein, but she said we pour from an overflowing cup. And I
Mm,
love that idea that it's not like you have your cup and you're pouring it out for everyone. You from the overflow, so you filled yourself, you've cared for yourself, and then you're overflowing to fill the other cups. And
yes,
it's like a shift. It's not
yes.
like, oh, poured all my cup out, there's nothing left for me. It's like I filled my cup and now there's plenty for everyone.
Yes. It's interesting. So this story actually is really great. My mom grew up in, not the best household.
Mm.
And she actually is what started the whole generational cycle breaking in our family, especially with a lot of
Mhm.
we have strong women in our family. And so she did pour everything into my sister and I, and,
Mhm.
was very involved in our lives and, just did a lot of things different, like significantly noticeably different
Yes.
than her
Yeah.
childhood. And the interesting thing is that I didn't necessarily take that and say, oh, I should really take care of myself, even though that's what she told me to do, even though that's what
Yeah.
she was doing for me. I saw what she did, which
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
pour every ounce of herself into everybody else. And I didn't do what she said, I did what she did. And
Yes.
Yes. The
so
modeling.
yes. And so I think as parents too, like we need to remember that our kids aren't
Yeah.
necessarily going to do what we tell them to do. They're going to do what we model for them. And so if
Yes.
we're modeling burnout, pushing ourselves to our limits, always working, overthinking, overdoing, they're going to receive that as this is what I need to do because that's the pattern that they are seeing every single day. That's what's being on
Absolutely.
repeat every single day.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Woo. I love that story. I love that
Yeah.
story.
It's so, yeah,
Wow.
that's very real. Shout
Yeah.
out to your mom too.
Yes.
Yes. So how do people find you, Alyssa? I know you do workshops, like online workshops, because Marci's taken some of those. How do people
Yeah,
find you
fantastic.
and get to work with you?
Yeah, so first follow me on Instagram, very active there. It's Hey Alyssa Booth. That's also my website, heyalyssabooth.com, so you can kind of see everything that I'm doing. Right now, my favorite thing is my membership. I have a monthly membership for women, and it's again, it's that I want to be intentional about taking care of myself too. We
Yeah.
tell ourselves, oh, I'm going to do all these things, and then we don't, right? We put ourselves on the back burner. So this is kind of like, I hate to use the word accountability because it's not my favorite word to use, but I'll use it for this purpose, right? It's kind of that accountability to yourself. It's the
Yeah.
intentional time that you're taking for yourself. And so it's a wonderful
Yeah.
group of women who are, again, being the cycle breakers, right? Doing
Yeah.
things differently for themselves and
Yes.
their families. And every Monday we have like that small micro shift, like I mentioned earlier, like we're just
Mhm.
doing 1 degree difference. We're not doing a complete 180. And
Hmm.
so you get to weave that into your life every single week, and then also have the community aspect of it, which I will die on this hill, but you should not be doing life alone. You should not heal
Yes.
alone. We need community now more than ever,
Absolutely.
literally.
Yes.
And then every month we have a class together. And this month's class, we're in March. It'll be recorded, so I know this podcast isn't coming out until a little bit later, but
Yeah.
talking about good girl conditioning next
Oops.
week. And so so I'm really excited
Yeah.
about that. And, we have these topics that are right. It's like a small seemingly small thing, but impacts us so much. And so those are just kind of the topics that we talk about on a month-to-month basis. So
That's
that's
fantastic.
my membership. It's called Align. And then I also do individual coaching, which I love doing. And then I have a group coaching program called Reclaim. And this is where we do kind of go into those little nitty-gritty things that, like we said earlier, we can't always see it. But once you see it, then it makes sense and then it clicks. And sometimes you just don't know what you don't know until you know it, and it can make the biggest difference in the world. So that group will be starting again in the summer.
Okay.
I highly recommend all of these groups to anyone listening who wants to just take better care of yourself, be able to show up as your best self for your kids, for your family, but first and foremost for yourself.
Yeah. And again, it's like modeling that for your kids, like saying, no, I'm taking this hour for myself to focus on me, or I'm taking this whole class to make sure that I'm taking care of myself, right? And so moms are so guilty of that, right? Like, oh, I would sign up my kid in an instant.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
But what about you?
Yeah, that's so true. So true.
Thank you, Alyssa. This has been wonderful. We appreciate you.
So good to talk to you.
You too.
Keep up that good work.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me back. I always love these conversations.
And now for your core mental health break. This is your opportunity to take a moment to support your mental wellness, your peace of mind, your own ease and grace. Take some time every day to support your mental health. You deserve it, and it matters. Today's affirmation is, everyone deserves love, including me. Say it aloud. Everyone deserves love, including me. Everyone deserves love, including me. Thanks for listening to the Warrior Parent Podcast, which is a production of our nonprofit, Cour Experience, who also creates and distributes Cour tools. You can find us at courexperience.org. Make sure you join us next week for another informative conversation to help you and your family show up mindfully, purposefully, and joyfully with each other and in your community.
Our Cour Tools platform consists of a number of proven tools and techniques that are designed to reduce stress, anxiety, and overwhelm in spite of what's going on in your world. We want to thank Samuel Hale, LLC, for sponsoring this podcast. Technical and marketing support comes from Inspire Your Brand. Our podcast editor is Justin Beeden. Opinions expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect those of the hosts, the producers, or the financial supporters. I'm Debbie DiManno.
And I'm Marci Mitchell. Thanks for listening. If you resonate with the idea of creating a community to help support kids and families, won't you join us by following the podcast and sharing this episode? You can even write a review. It truly does take a village, and we appreciate you.